In this video, I'm going to go over just a general orientation to Google Sheets. There will be four major things that we're going to go over. First is access to Google Sheets. You'll first need to set up your Gmail first. If you already have a Gmail account, you won't need to set anything up. Um, After that, we're going to access the Undergrad Characteristics dataset. This dataset is what's going to be used for the quizzes for Google Sheets. So being familiar with this data set will be important and how to access it and make sure you can perform all the calculations that you need to perform. You're going to need to also obtain the Google Sheets statistics add-on package. That's an add-on package to Google Sheets. And so the basic Google Sheets does not come with this. It's simple to set up, but you'll need to do this so that you can perform a number of the different types of analyses that we're going to do, as well as data visualizations. And then at the very end of this video, I'm just going to give you a very brief overview of Google Sheets. So to begin, let's access Google Sheets. Like I said, you'll need to have your Gmail set up first. You can access it just going through to Google and clicking on Google Sheets in the search engine. Then I'll take you to Google Sheets. Also, clicking on this link will also take you to Google Sheets. So as we log in, this is the kind of interface to Google Sheets. You can see that there's a few sheets already loaded in this data set. One is the Undergrad Characteristics data set that we're going to take a look in the minute. You can click here if you want to open up a blank Google Sheets, and that's what we'll do for now. So this is the general spreadsheet, Google Sheet that we're going to be working in. Obviously, it can seem a little bit daunting because there's a lot of boxes. It's just a big grid. It's empty. It may not make sense to you if you've not worked in a spreadsheet environment. And we'll get more into just what the spreadsheet environment is in later videos and kind of work you through how to do different statistics within this environment. So that's pretty simple. You're in Google Sheets. The next thing we need to do is let's go back to this video. This is we need to access the Undergrad Characteristics data set. Now this data set is, like I said earlier in the video, it's going to be a data set that we use routinely and often throughout the course. And so accessing it effectively is going to be really important. So we'll click on this link. It's a shared link, so and that will take us to this Undergrad Characteristics dataset. And as you can see in this dataset, there is not a lot of options I can have available to me. If I try to edit any of these boxes, or what we call cells in Google Sheets, cells in the grid, I can't really make any changes. I can't do any analysis as it's set up right now. So what you need to do is make a copy of this data set for your own personal Google Sheets, so that you can start to edit it and perform statistical analyses and do different things with this Google Sheet. So we're going to go up here to File. Actually, I'm going to zoom in just a tad bit here. Let's make this just a little bit bigger so you can see it. So we're going to go to File, and we're going to go to Make a Copy right here. And then we're going to just call this Quiz Data Undergrad Characteristics 2018, and I'll just put my name here. And we'll hit OK. So this will copy this entire data set into our own personal Google Sheets folder. So if we go back and so you can always click on this little green icon up here to go to the Google Sheets home. And now we see we have this quiz data, Undergrad Characteristics 2018, Eric, in our Google Sheets sort of folder. So we can click on this and it'll take us right to it. Now we have a whole host of different options available to us in terms of performing statistical analysis and doing different things. And we'll get into what everything is going on here with all these numbers and different variables on the screen but that'll be for future videos. So let's go back to the kind of table of contents for this video. And what we need to do next so we can perform statistical analyses for this class is add the Google Sheets add-on package. So we go back to our browser, we go up to the top of the screen where it says add-ons. We're going to click on that, and you can see that there's this option for get add-ons. We're going to click on that as well. And we can see there's a number of different options available to us in terms of different Google Sheets add-ons. We're going to type in the search bar statistics, and we can see the top thing that pops up is statistics add-on. It's by Google statisticians and engineers. We're going to add this. It's free. We're going to add this to our account. Now you're going to see this window. This add-on package didn't have this before. It says this app isn't verified. It's giving you this sort of warning message. This statistical package, as far as I can tell, has been developed by Google statisticians and engineers, so it's part of the Google environment. I'm not sure why this warning is coming up, but we're just going to ignore this back to safety warning, or we can click advanced, and then we're going to click on go to statistics unsafe to add the statistics add-on. Okay, and then it'll ask you to have access to, these are the permissions that you're giving it, to view and manage your spreadsheets in Google Drive, and operate some sidebars. So pretty minimal permissions. You're going to click allow, and you've added now the Google Statistics add-on package. So to access that, whenever we're doing this in the course, you can go to add-on statistics, and you'll see these two options, describe data and regression. We'll be using these different ones throughout the course. And there's also documentation for the add-ons here as well, if we wanted to go to those, but we're not going to. So that is sort of the how to add that statistics add-on package. And now this last thing I want to do is I just want to give you a general overview of Google Sheets. So Google Sheets is what we call a spreadsheet program, or otherwise it's an interface for working with a database. And it's a grid. It's sort of like a big table where you have columns across the top, and those columns in spreadsheets are always alphabetically labeled as A, B, C, D, E, F, G, etc. as far out as you want to go. If it goes beyond the 26 letters of the alphabet, then it just repeats A, B, B, C, C, so that you can have an infinite number of columns if you want. Rows are labeled numerically, so you can see that there are rows going downward. You can kind of scroll downward and see how big this data set is. It has a total of 61 rows. Now this first row right here is the variable names that we'll be analyzing. This first column right here in the first row is the person, so these are just unique identifiers that identify the person in the data set. And these other columns are variables. And so we'll be getting into what more specifically in a future video, the differences between these variables and kind of what they mean. You can resize columns just like you would on a table. Now there's a warning that comes up. So this is the sort of, like, you want to think about this as the kind of master database. You want to be careful about editing data within this database, because a lot of the quiz questions will be based on it. So if you go in and change a numerical value in this data set, you will actually get a wrong answer on the quiz. So we've got to be a little bit careful about how we edit this. So it's going to say, heads up, you're trying to edit a part of the sheet that shouldn't be changed accidentally. Edit anyway. And so you can click here if you don't want to see this warning for 5 minutes and hit OK. And now we can make changes to things. Like if I wanted to change the value of this cell, I can double click on it and say, no, I don't want it to be 55, I'm going to have it be 70. Now, like I said, making those changes, you want to be very careful if you're making a change in this part of the data set, and you're using this to answer questions on the quiz. Because if you make changes here, the quiz answers will be different than the actual answer key that I've computed based on this database. or data set, and therefore you'll get the answer wrong. So be careful about making those changes. But I'll show you some ways where we don't have to worry about that too much. So you can see here are all the variables. So we go out to column N, and we have 61 rows, but we have a total of 60 observations. Now, across the top, we have a number of different options. We have our undo, our redo. So if we say we change this to 70, we're like, oops, we didn't want to do that. We can undo that just like you would in kind of a word processor. We can print, we can do different options. A very important function let me actually create a new, I'm going to create a new spreadsheet. So there's an option down here called plus, and it says add sheet. You can kind of see that. We're going to click on that, and it's going to add a blank kind of sheet to this sort of spreadsheet or kind of workbook. And it's just labeled sheet 4. And so these are the different labels of the different sheets. So we have the data. In this first one, we have the sheet 4, which is a blank worksheet that I just created, and then we have the code book. The code book is just an explanation of the variables, which I'll explain more in a future video. So we go to this blank sheet. We can see that I can enter, let's say, people's names. I'll enter my name, various names, and we could put like values. We could say we want their weight, pounds, and we could say 120, 120. Let's go 156, 175, 127, 220. So here we've got weight in pounds, and we've got looks like 5 different observations and 5 different weights. And that's typically how data is organized within a spreadsheet, where you have a column that's a variable, in this case it's weight, and then you have observations or cases that are listed in rows. And so for each observation or each person, we have a different weight. And so we can make another variable called height, and we could say this is in inches, and we could say this person is 56 inches, 47, 62, 5, and we'll go a little bit taller here, 73. All right, so the big thing, you don't want to, you usually want in a spreadsheet just numerical values, or when you're performing calculations. So even though this is in inches, you would not want to put this in, because the spreadsheet would not know how to compute 56 inches, because this text here messes up the calculations because it doesn't interpret that. All right, so a few different options where we can make changes here to this spreadsheet. Well, oftentimes it asks you to round numbers. So let's say we had a variable that was house. Let's go square footage, average square foot of house. And we could say that, let's say this variable was a fraction, so it was like 125 dot, and it was gives you this sort of fraction. Well, oftentimes what I'm going to ask you to round your answers to usually the 10th or the 100th or the whole number. In order to do that, you're going to use these two options here. So we can decrease the decimal spaces, or that's increase, and we can decrease this so it rounds to the 100th in this case, or the 10th in this case. And this doesn't, when you do this, you don't lose that information as numbers carry out beyond the decimal point, because you can go back to the original number and you can see the original number here. So if you need to add or subtract digits to the right of the decimal point, you can do that by using these two options. This there's other options to change the type of variable, whether it's a dollar, currency, or a percentage. We won't mess around with those too much. You can also change the variables here as well. Automatic is just the basic kind. These will obviously be automatic. So when it's set at automatic, the Google Sheets automatically detects what type of variable it is, but you can go in here and specify that differently if you would like. So that's some kind of basic functions here. There's formatting. So if you want to change the format, highlight, italicize, you can also color the background. You can put borders around things. Much like you would do tables within a word processor, you can do all those different options here. A lot of the same edit, copy, paste functions, delete. You can delete whole rows, like by right-clicking on the D, you can come down to delete column, and that's gone. You can delete just cells. So if I just want to delete these 3 cells here, I can right-click on that or highlight them using the left click, right-click on the 3 cells, and then delete columns or delete cells, and then it asks you, how should the spreadsheet reorganize? Shift the cells up or to the left. We'll just say shift up, and now they're gone. So a few things, quick kind of quick tips for copying and pasting. We can see these 4 numbers here. If we wanted to duplicate these numbers into the column to the right, we can click and highlight these 4 numbers and pull and drag them to the right, and we can see that they're duplicated, as well as the format contents of the cell. If we wanted to duplicate a number, just a single number like this, we can click on it, grab the bottom right corner, pull down, and it duplicates that number down. So that's a fast way to kind of manipulate data within a data set. So let's see here. Is there anything else I want to show you? You can obviously, a popular thing that we'll do here to kind of help, we'll go back to the data here. And you can see that as I scroll down, this top row stays pinned to the top. And this is because it's his variable names. This option is called freeze, freeze rows or freeze freeze rows or freeze columns. So we're going to want to freeze no rows, and you can see now that feature is now disabled. So when you're working with a data set, and you obviously, if you have identifying information across the top row or in the first column, you can go over here to freeze and say freeze first row, freeze first column, and now as I scroll down, the labels stay attached, makes it easier to kind of figure out where you're editing in the database. And as I scroll right, you can see that the person identifiers, the numbers corresponding to different people, stays also in place. There's a bunch of different options to Google Sheets. I encourage you, if this seems like an intimidating environment, there's plenty of tutorials on online for basic operations in Google Sheets. Just go to YouTube, type in beginner Google Sheets, and that'll show you a bunch more different things you can do. So if you're intimidated, I encourage you to go on there. But this course is set up for beginners, so that we'll go through some of these basic operations as we learn statistics as well. So be familiar with it, play around, test some different things out, see how it works, test it on a blank spreadsheet before you start operating within the undergrad statistics data set, and start working with that data, just so you have a firm grasp of kind of how to undo things, how to edit cells, how to copy and paste cells, things like that. All right, so that's it for this video. We'll continue developing our knowledge of Google Sheets as we go further in the subsequent videos.